so play. So this is week 2. Let's go over what we'll do today. I like to start the class with questions and a little bit of review. So questions that were questions about the material from last class. Any larger questions about your project. See me during break or after class, or send me an email. So we'll start off every lecture with a little bit of a review. What did we do? And then, so today, and most likely 2 other class sessions after today, so for the next 3 weeks, we will start off the class with learning parts of the MVC architecture. So MVC is how we interface, so how Apple wants us to interface with the iPhone. If you have no idea what this means right now, MVC, never heard of it, don't worry, we'll go over it. We'll spend a couple of weeks just adding to our knowledge. And so maybe for some of you guys, there's going to be a little bit of review, but then we'll also apply it to the iPhone. So hopefully there's something new for most of you. So we'll start off the class with our introduction to MVC. We'll have, as every class will have a couple of demos. So we'll continue our quiz app, and we'll modify it based on what we've learned during the lecture. And then we're going to learn about a possibly new concept for a lot of you, optionals. We'll learn later in the class what optionals are. So that's today. Let's see if we can figure out what we did last week. So who remembers something that we did last week? Yes. Say again. So we started creating a quiz. So maybe who can tell us something that we did to create this very simple quiz app? So what was one part that we did? How did we create the view, for example?
In the storyboard?
Yes. So in the storyboard, we used something called Interface Builder, which had a storyboard file, and that's where we dragged components onto that screen. That was a visual way of laying out our view. So I believe started with that. We just dragged view components onto that screen, and then who remembers the next step? What did we do? What did we do next? Yes.
Try to center it in the vertical and horizontal axes.
Yes, very good. So does anyone remember a keyword related to laying things out? Yes.
Auto layout.
So we used auto layout. Yes, we created layout constraints. We used auto layout. Very good. Why did we do that? Why did we create these layout constraints? Why did we use auto layout? What benefit did we have?
Tilted the screen, it would be the multiple sides.
If we tilted this, very good. When we tilted the screen, we could preserve the layout that we had created originally. So how are you probably used to doing this from other environments? How do you lay out views on the web, for example? CSS, and so there's something.
Like place spots, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, that's something similar. Yeah, and so a very crude way of laying out a view is by saying, okay, this is 5 pixels in and 5 pixels down. So we're trying to avoid that as much as possible. So rotation, that was one benefit that we got out of this. Can anyone remember another benefit that we had? Yes. Different devices, yes. So as much as we can, we're trying to build the view once, and then hopefully it just works on all of the different device sizes. There's a pretty big caveat here. Who can think of, if you're thinking of iOS devices, who can think of something that might not, so 2 different devices where it might not look good if you just have one design? Yes? iPad and iPhone, especially if you have the smallest iPhones, like the iPhone 4 or 5, and then imagine the big iPads. If you center a little label and a button, it looks really silly on the iPad. So there are some techniques for differentiating between the iPhone and the iPod. We're not going to really go much into that in this class. It's not really that. There's not that much to know to do this. I just don't want to distract us too much. So yeah, if you're going to also target the iPad, there's a little bit of extra work to make certain views just look okay. Yes.
Is there a way to adjust text or adjust like images on from one to another? So like say you want to go from an iPhone to an iPad.
Yes.
You want it to look similar, but also be blown up more for the iPad. Is there ways of doing that?
Yes, there's lots of ways of doing that. Yes. So if you're playing around with that, maybe you can do a little bit of research yourself, and then if you can't find answers, come see me. Yeah. So auto layout solves some cool things. So one of them, as we said, you can rotate, and it still looks okay on a rotated screen. And then different device sizes. So that covers. No, that's not me. Okay, I thought I heard a little noise. So that covered the view creation that we worked on. So we created a view in Interface Builder, and we modified the main storyboard file. So who remembers another aspect of what we did last week? So let's put the storyboard and the view to the side for now. What else did we do? So we were working in the text editor, and we created a view controller class. So we were there was a couple of methods. There was already a method there, and the view controller class was already created for us. So we filled out this view controller class with I think we created a function, and we created a couple of properties on the view controller. So we started seeing a little bit of Swift, the language Swift. So the entire class is going to be taught in Swift. And then we connected the two, right? So who remembers how we connected the view part and the view controller part? How did we connect the two? And what kind of connections did we create?
Use your mouse and hit control, and then you went ahead and dragged it over.
And can you give an example for this dragging? Like there were two different kinds of controls that we were connecting. Can you give one example?
What do you mean?
Oh,
you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. I forgot the two classes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Anyone? Yes. So we created an outlet and an action. So let's put those fancy terms to the side for now. We'll come back to them in a second. So one created a property. So we took something on the screen and we created a variable, a property on the view controller class. And then so the other one, we connected something on the view and we created a function with that. So we heard outlet and action already. So which one was which? Who remembers which one was which? Like almost self-explanatory. Anyone? Yes.
The button for the output and the display for the answers. Is that it?
Yes, pretty close. Yeah. So the label, we created a property that we could reference the label and put text in it. So we had a variable that we could assign something to. That was the outlet, and then the interaction with the button. That became, so it makes sense, we're doing something, we're interacting with it, so that became a function. So we had a way to create, to link components as variables, and then components or actions on the view to functions in the view controller class. Very good. So there's a reason why I went so much in depth with this just now, because not knowing, we already worked with the MVC architecture in this. So as I said, Apple kind of forces us into this MVC architecture, and by connecting a label to the view controller class, and also by creating the button click to a function, we did very MVC-ish MVCE actions, or we operated within the constraints of MVC. So yeah, so let's take a couple of steps back and let's just take a couple of minutes and try to reason through why we go through this trouble of learning MVC or learning other architectures. So let's just go through the exercise and make it an enticing proposition to actually spend some time and to invest in this thing. So let's take writing code, put it to the side for now, and let's think about building a house. So you and your buddies, you decide to build a house. You find 10 people to build a house with, and you find a bunch of building materials, and you start building. What could go wrong with this approach? So yes.
No foundation, maybe?
So so maybe someone starts laying bricks on a sandy surface. So yeah, something could be structurally wrong with that. I imagine. So yeah, we might not have a foundation. What else? What general things could go wrong? Yes.
You might not have blueprints for the house.
So yeah, if we don't have a common plan, we might be working on two different houses. Like maybe we end up with a round house and a triangular house on different sides. Yeah. So we don't have a blueprint. We don't have a common language to communicate about things that we're going to be doing. So lots of issues that could come up there. What else could go wrong? Or what could be helped by a different approach? So let's say we created one house, and now someone saw this great half-round, half-square house that we built, and we want to build. Now we're being hired to build 100 of these. So any problems that might happen there? So consistency, very good. Yeah. There's not really a way for us to speed this process up, really. So so I maybe did this one thing here. So I'm going to do it at this other house. If we make a little tweak in the design, So we don't really have a way to delegate our work to other people potentially. We don't really have a way to create experts at certain things, and then those experts can't train other people to do the same work. So we don't really have a way to really have a common plan, and we can't really grow as a construction company. So so lots of things that could go wrong there. In the construction world, so what are some ways how house building is made so that some of these issues don't happen? So who can think of things that happen in the construction world that help with building houses? Yes? Tools, we have tools, very good. We probably have a common language for the tools, very good. Other ideas? Yes? Yes?
Design?
We have a design, we have a blueprint. You had an idea?
Materials?
They're probably always the same materials, so there's something we're familiar with. So we have people who specialize. So we have plumbers who only do plumbing work. We have people who only build foundations. And then, so if my electrician starts doing some plumbing work, I know that something's wrong. So I as a project manager, I have a good way of knowing something's wrong here. So you are wearing an electrician's hat and you're messing with the gas line. Something's wrong there. There's all these structures that make constructing a house simpler. So, and we have the same in software architecture. So who has worked with MVC before in the past? So a couple of you. If I throw out the term software architecture, who has worked with other architectures before? So maybe also raise your hand. And if you're not raising your hand, that's totally fine too. We are going to work in this framework. We're going to use MVC, Model View Control. So let me. I'm going to do a couple of things on the board here. So